There are several background gags that pop up from time to time in the show, but what's the deal with A Dinner of Onions, and what all do we really know about it?
As the ambulance pulled away, Cassie remembered the smell of onions from her grandmother's kitchen. The end. Joe Jack, you awake?
I got half a mind to go to Nova Scotia and kick that Benedict's ass, honey.
Hey folks, welcome to Squirrel Tactics. Like, subscribe, check out the Patreon, let's do this. A Dinner of Onions by Nora Harmony Wallace. It first appeared in Full Metal Dust Jacket, but we'll get to that here in a minute. First, we're going to look at its other appearances, which tend to be kind of random. Like when Peggy was reading it in bed while planning her trip the next day that ended up with her and Luann stuck at a rest stop due to a lapse in insurance coverage in Mutual of Omaha.
On our way to the outlets tomorrow, I was thinking Luann and I could stop for lunch at the Shoney's off exit 25. What, you don't like that one?
No, it's a good Shoney's.
Back when we had Shoney's in Texas. I didn't eat there very often, but I do remember liking it. She's also reading it when the hills are being reported on by Channel 84.
Channel 84. Late-breaking weather, every hour on the hour.
After Hank gets blamed for a snake getting into the sewer system in Sir Punt.
Now we go to our own Nancy Hicks Gribble, live on the scene.
Oh, no, don't show our house. No.
Thanks, Miguel. Neighbors such as myself describe Mr. Hill as a quiet and somewhat rigid man, and the last person you'd expect to release such a deadly threat into this community's hearts and homes.
You know, I always thought we'd be on TV for being murdered in our sleep.
I still do not get how that snake made it into the city sewer if the hills have a septic tank.
You just killed your whole back lawn. A perfectly innocent lawn.
Okay, Big Shot, where's your tank?
Side lawn, 8 feet out, 9 feet 7 inches from the pavement.
Side lawn. Mine's on the side lawn, too.
Which, yeah, we know they were on septic, so how did it get in the sewer? Sorry, that just bothers me. Peggy is again reading it in bed as she and Hank have a conversation about Lady Bird and her newfound aggressiveness and doggone crazy.
I feel so stupid.
Oh, Hank, so you love Lady Bird, and you're willing to do anything to keep her. Does that make you stupid?
No.
Yes, it does. But it's okay. Love makes people stupid.
And later in that same episode, a lady who luckily wasn't attacked by Lady Bird in a nursing home is also seen reading the book.
Lady Bird, stop! Lady Bird! Good girl.
At some point it ends up becoming a movie and apparently a companion book, which we see Bobby watching as part of his quiz bowl preparation in Stress for Success.
When I directed this scene, the sky wasn't sad enough. Read about how we fix it in post in the companion book.
Oh, companion book!
And even the Supernussenpones own a copy of it, which we see in The Men Who Knew Too Much.
So, how did practice go? Did it go great? Is your shooting improving?
Shooting was fine, but the place a pigsty. They don't even have a skeet range. Those rednecks are just bears with furniture.
I kind of get an Oprah's book club feel about this book, you know, kind of like White Oleander or Deep End of the Ocean. And that brings us to its first appearance and what we know about the content of the book. In Full Metal Dust Jacket, where Peggy buys Laura's World of Books, not to be confused with cover-to-cover books.
Cover-to-cover books. The only way to read books is cover-to-cover.
And renames it Peggy's World of Books so that she can join a highfalutin book club, with her first and only invite being to discuss A Dinner of Onions.
A Dinner of Onions
By Nora Harmony Wallace, of course. A chronicle of 3 generations of an American family. I always wondered why nobody's ever done that before.
Now, books about multi-generations of a family are not rare, I'm guessing that's what the joke is. Hell, V.C. Andrews made an entire career out of it, both the original and the guy that took over after she died. That's right, I read Flowers in the Attic, the paperback version with the cutout in the front cover. But this does give us a basic idea of what the book is about. It's about 3 generations of a family. And after this, she makes Hank read it, and yeah, she does not give him a whole lot of choice here.
Hank, we are going to the book club. Read this by Friday. You are excused from emptying the garbage till this is done. And no TV.
You won't let me read a book that I want. Mom makes you read a book that you don't want.
That's what the elves call justice of the unicorn.
Nice dig there, Bobby. For those unaware, Bobby was reading a fantasy book he picked out rather than getting something about a boy with gumption like Hank wanted.
Clea, Huntress of Dragonvale. Part the 5th of the Elves of Evermore series.
Hank would eventually just take the book away from Bobby, though I find his no elves at the table rule to be kind of funny.
Dang it, Bobby. No more elves at the table.
One thing I could definitely give Hank props for is that he sticks to his guns and he reads the book. He may not have been a fan of how the book began or quite understand the point to a lot of it, plus he might have been dealing with an unreliable narrator.
Turns out the first 2 chapters were a dream. I'm not sure I trust this lady. And what do you make of this? Every time she cooks dinner for her father, she cries. But it's not always onions.
But he also gets other people involved, talking to the guys about it in the alley, enough that Boomhauer offers his own interpretation of what the author was going for.
And man, see, now my dang old father, he gonna symbolize the past, man, and dinner gonna be like future, you know, so you're talking about, you know, stuck in the present, you know, so just like dang old English class, man.
I had onions for dinner last night. You can get a pound for 49 cents.
Still waters run deep, I tell you what. On top of that, Hank reads the entire book to the team up at Strickland Propane. Must have been a slow day. And I seriously love how Hank basically created 2 book clubs to discuss the book that Peggy made him read for a, let's be honest, fake book club.
As the ambulance pulled away, Cassie remembered the smell of onions from her grandmother's kitchen. The end.
And we get to see exactly what Buck Strickland took from it, which, I mean, to each his own, everybody has a different take on things. Though I highly doubt they were grapefruits. Of course, you know, that's the joke.
Boy, that Cassie reminds me of someone. Hey, how big did you guys picture her tatas?
You said she was slender as a willow, so grapefruits?
Also, does Enrique's original voice throw anybody else off, or is that just me? Anywho, fast forward to the night of the book club, which does not go well, mostly due to Peggy not realizing that this was a social get-together rather than a literary discussion. The whole book club thing was just an excuse for them to hold a shindig, you know, the whole wine and cheese kind of thing. Especially if it's Cabot cheese, because nobody's too highfalutin for Cabot cheese. That's right, they don't pay me to say it, it's just damn good cheese. But Peggy keeps trying to have a discussion about the book anyway. She was there to be an intellectual rather than a socialite.
That is exactly like the scene in Dinner where Cassie confronts the hotel manager, yes?
Honey, I couldn't get past chapter 3. That writer was trying way too hard to be Isabel Allende for my blood.
The reference to Isabel Allende makes sense. A multi-generational story focused on female characters, that's kinda up her alley, though I highly doubt A Dinner of Onions contains any magic. Pretty sure Hank would have brought that up by now if it did. But speaking of Hank, he was doing great at the meeting, mingling with other guests and spreading the gospel of Sweet Lady Propane. Well, until Peggy came up and ruined all of that.
So, you say it's both efficient and clean burning. Fascinating.
Oh, Hank, there you are. I was just wondering if you men had noticed the subtle change of perspective in Book 2, the way the women have.
Book 2.
Okay, Peggy, seriously? For someone who's all about books, you are terrible at reading a room. No one else here other than Hank has any idea what you're talking about, nor do they want to know what you're talking about. They're there to have a good time, not to talk about a book. We do get to hear one of the lines from the book, and apparently it involves a burning farmhouse, when Peggy overhears a few of the ladies complaining about her and admitting to lying about them ending the book club so that she wouldn't want to come back.
As Cassie said, while the farmhouse burned brightly behind her, I am an onion.
Being in a dark place after being humiliated at the book club, mostly her fault, but also her bookstore closed. It apparently became a liquor store afterwards, which wasn't really her fault. The bookstore business isn't that profitable, and they tend to make more off selling knickknacks and coffee. Hank, though, gets the idea to create a book club for Peggy after running into one of the store's former patrons, who had received a copy of A Dinner of Onions as his free book with gun purchase.
Here's the key to the dumpster. If you don't lock it, the winos sleep in it.
They are not winos. They are my customers, loyal customers.
I'm looking for the lady who ran the gun store.
She's out of business. She's been referring people to Ammo World or Crazy Jerry's.
I just wanted to know if the first 2 chapters were really a dream or not.
Yeah, I wondered that myself.
He wasn't the only former gun customer that had questions, leading to Hank getting them together with Peggy so that they could hold a discussion on what the book was really about, therefore giving Peggy the real book club that she was looking for.
Travis makes an excellent point. Cassie's lighthouse can symbolize hope, but who's to say it doesn't also symbolize the government's intrusion into the lives of private citizens, as suggested by our friend here who won't give us his name.
That guy right there, by the way, is a reference to the Unabomber. His police sketch was extremely well known, and though he didn't give his name here, I do love the names that we do get, such as Muskrat and Ox. By the way, Ox is not meant to be confused with Moose from the Arlen Gun Club.
The Arlen Gun Club, now accident-free for almost a week.
I get that they're both big burly guys with long beards and sunglasses, but in the gun world, yeah, that looks a little bit more common than you think.
Cassie's grandpa wouldn't give her an evil lighthouse.
Very good point, Muskrat. Any responses?
Well, can't we at least agree that Mary Elizabeth's baby was her own lighthouse?
Who ever heard of an illegitimate lighthouse? God dang it, Ox, you're confusing realism with symbolism again.
I'm about to symbolize my gun to your head.
Alright, so what information have we been given? It's about 3 generations of a family, the 3rd generation including a girl named Cassie. She's described as being slender as a willow. There was also a woman named Mary Elizabeth who had an illegitimate child, but that's all we get to know about her. We know that Cassie inherited a lighthouse from her grandfather. It may or may not have been evil. Maybe that comparison to Isabel Allende was a better one than I reckoned it was. She cries every time she cooks for her father, though it's not directly stated that this is her, so it could technically be another female character. She apparently cooked onions with her grandmother as a child. She confronted a hotel manager at a dinner and was present for the burning of a farmhouse where she proclaimed herself to be an onion. Maybe she was an ogre, who knows. Also, the first 2 chapters are a dream. Oh, and there's some fella named Benedict up in Nova Scotia who has an ass-kicking coming courtesy of Joe Jack. I could try to Frankenstein a fan fiction out of this jumbled mess here. So there's a set of grandparents. The grandmother sometimes cooks with her granddaughter named Cassie. Grandfather was a lighthouse keeper, and I'm guessing he enjoyed foods that include onions. They had a couple of daughters. One of them was Cassie's mother. The other was Mary Elizabeth, who became pregnant and was abandoned by her lover Benedict, who ran off to Nova Scotia in order to avoid any responsibility. Cassie's mother also abandoned her family, wanting to live her life free from the shackles of societal pressures, leading to Cassie having to fill in for her mother when it came to the household duties such as cooking. And every time she cooked dinner for her sad, broken, possibly alcoholic father, it reminded her of simpler times full of bluer skies and greener grass. My guess is that the ambulance at the end is taking away her dead father. Maybe he was killed by the lighthouse. Maybe it was natural causes. Maybe that's where the whole evil thing comes in. But with his death, she became free of her familial responsibilities. Perhaps this feeling of freedom harkened back to her childhood and the smell of cooking onions. I don't know, it might be more along the lines of like water for chocolate, but my guess is that it mainly focuses on the women and the men are mostly bad. That's typically how these books go. Anywho, what do y'all think it's about? What's your fan fiction? And what was the deal with the burning firehouse? Did you have magic fire powers? Let's hear what y'all have to say down in the comments. Thanks for watching, folks, and we'll see you next time.
The elf lord Flyfendel knelt upon the bed of dandelions. Young wanderer, quoth he, I have woven you a magic breastplate. Oh. Bobby, television.